Well, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to this webinar on visitor management. My name is Theo de Bruin, and I will be hosting you through this event for this afternoon. Well, I suggest we just wait a little longer. I can see that there are still participants rolling in, so please a few moments of patience, and then we'll start up. Well, again, a warm welcome to this webinar on visitor management. I'll start with a short introduction, and then we give the floor to three presentations, to three speakers, so to say. We came up with this theme by a twinning group we had during the lockdown the last year, so to say, sharing experiences, thoughts, and ideas about recreation in the post in the lockdown period. And well, having this exchange and the topic became broader and broader, and that created the idea of starting a webinar to find out whether this theme could be examined more broadly. There is definitely a need within our among our members and our organizations to give it an extra thought. So that's why we came up with this webinar, and we are members of Eurosite. And for those who are not familiar with Eurosite, Eurosite is an association started in 1989 as an outcome, a result of a twinning project in which we found out the importance of networking and cooperation among nature management organizations, nature protection organizations. And nowadays, Eurosite is a network of these type of organizations all over Europe. We do all sorts of activities in twinnings, in working groups, like on topics, for example, like nature management planning, wetlands and climate change, peatland restoration and management, etc., etc. I'd say. If you are interested, please have a look at our website, eurosite.org. There you find some more information, and maybe visitor management is becoming another topic we want to share knowledge and experience in. But before giving the floor to the first speaker, I'd like to present a few house rules that were already on the site. Thank you, Jelke, for showing them. Already broadcasted, but the webinar will be recorded and shared with and among members and those who are interested in this topic. That basically is the work we do to share this knowledge and information. Second thing is, if you have a question, put it through the Q&A button, and at the end of the presentations, we'll have time to answer them. And your microphone and camera have been turned off, so there is no possibility to directly intervene in the presentations. Therefore, well, keep your question posted, and please do let us know if you have some questions. Talking about the speakers, we have 3 speakers. Let me shortly introduce them. The first is Kazimierz Rabski from the Society for the Coast and EUCC in Poland. The second one is Imke de Jong from Natuurmonumenten, and the third one is Theodoros Nazaridis from Kirkini Lake Natural Area, and they have prepared a preparation for us, and they will explain us about the problems they have on visitor management, on receiving visitors during the COVID period, but also before the COVID time, and how they are dealing with them, and the questions and the answers maybe they have on different issues. Kazimierz, can I give the floor to you for the first presentation?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy and, well, a little nervous to give you some impressions and information about what has happened, what's going on in Poland according to the COVID pandemic, which makes us all in very strange and very, very important time, because it's a little bit, we're trying ourselves into completely new challenges and completely new possibilities, how we should realize our mission, how we should realize our activities in the time of restriction, the time of having a lot of problems with reduction of our normal, let me say, life. So that is my first try to share with anybody this problem. So that's why I hope you will understand some difficulties, some problem. And well, let me start. I'm the chairman of the Society for the Coast. I organized this organization 25 years ago, so it's quite a long time. It's a small organization. I'll come back to this, our experience in practice way, and I would like to just to tell you a little bit more about how the situation is looking like in Polish protected areas, with special attention to national parks. Well, next slide, please, Jelke. Thank you, Jelke, for your support and helping us. Well, the very important fact is that all our activities had to be in strict connection, a strict relation to governmental decisions and the written by law. But first of all, let me show you a little bit some facts from the calendar of restriction related to Polish legislation during the COVID pandemic. Well, the first confirmed case of disease officially we had in February 2019. However, in many materials you can find that the first example of the COVID in Poland was already in December 2019. In March 2020, by law and by governments, make a decision to close libraries, schools, museums, and all green area, including national parks. So coming to any open areas was prohibited for more than 1 month. However, in April, government decided to open again access to the green areas, including national parks and the protected area, but only for individuals. In May, they started to open the museums with restrictions, with number of people for 1 square meter and your mask. However, after the short time of the summer, the significant restoration again came. Museum has been closed and all outdoor events have been prohibited. Only was possible to visit the areas by the individual pedestrians or organized group in very small numbers. 2021 makes a lot of changes in this situation because we got the possibility to organize outdoor events with restrictions of the number, and in September 21 we have possibility to open the museums, education facilities with a limited group of people related to the exhibition area. Please, next one. Well, some glimpse for the legal acts. The most important acts in Poland was the first act from 2nd of March 2020. It described not only kind of activities which had to be reduced, but also they pay a lot of attention to economic aspects, for instance, way of compensation. However, it was not written very clear how to be the relation of the culture and the place area and the nature place area like we have. The other important, in my opinion, regulation was a regulation from this year, from May, which allowed us to organize again our life, our education life, our visiting life outside or inside our protected areas. And so we have now very clear say about how many persons should be at the same time in one place, how many persons for 1 square meter, and of course with the very high regulations about the covers, the mouth and the nose in accordance to other regulations. From May 15, what we are looking forward, we have possibility to start with a special event outside the area, so it's open air, the possibility organizing up to limited to 25%, however, a strict regime. And actually now we have possibility to organize the meetings and events up to 150 people, and the number of the people we are vaccinated against COVID does not account. So it's a very great challenge for the people who decided to make the injection for COVID for the COVID disease. Please go ahead, next one. So how is looking like? How is looking like in Poland? So Poland is a country with 23 national parks, a total surface of 168 square kilometers, which is only 1% of the area of Poland. Not all the park has a museums of education center, however, 18 of them is located in Polish national parks. Number of visitors during the year, however, is far more than 10 million. So it means how big pressure for this 1% of the area of Poland has normally national parks. According to the restrictions, okay, thank you very much, according to restrictions, the 5th Polish national park, 4th Polish national park decided to have a very strong limitation to the coming of people even before the official closing the national the area of nature protection. So it was 5 Polish national parks. 2 of them, Tatra National Park and Kapinoski National Park, were very popular, and that's why they decided immediately to reduce number of visitors. This idea was also, text one please, characteristic for 30% of Polish national park, when even after the official opening the green area, they make some reductions connected with the outside located museums area, tourist points, sometimes about the sea, sometimes about the parking place, sometimes about the typical place where we're spending the free time. So mostly it was reduced because of the problems with the high number of the person characteristic for these places. So that's why it has been decided to reduce even in the area in the time of the lower restriction. There's a 7 Polish national park, which some of them are very famous all over the world, like Biebrza or Białowieża National Park. So they will take care about the taking problems with the visitor management. Next one, please. So some most important remarks. First of all, we have problems with keeping the safe distance and wearing masks. It's all parks say there's a problem with this, and also to organize and control the routes, the tourist routes on the area. Here we had a problem with the number of the people who were able to realize this mission, to take care about the people visiting the park. In smaller areas, it was and still is easier to control the existing regulation, for example, traffic on the tourist road. Certainly, the number of visitors in education facilities actually can be regulated by the number of the tickets sold or just counting the people. In some educational centers, especially bigger Polish national parks, museums, and centers, can be open, and the online pre-sale tickets is used, what is supporting visitors management. Actually now, there is possibility to organize events up to 150% outside, but previously it was impossible. It was very impossible, forced the cancellation of many projects. Well, there is currently no uniform pandemic reduction strategy. Generally, it is conditioned by legal regulations, but leaving the director's park with a possibility of individual management. And some park accessibility is still particularly crowded, crowded places has been limited. Well, let me say about some more informations. So please next one. So the important insight coming from the situation, coming from the experience for Polish National Park. Changing legal conditions and the inability to predict changes, as well as the changing pandemic situation in practice, excluded all Polish national park and protected area for organizing education activities and functioning in the field of visitors management. It's connected, of course, with this fact where the schools and any public institution was closed for many years. So usually guests of this national park visiting centers, the youngest, were not able to visit it. National park directors have been given some discretion to making decisions about the restoration, about the visiting park possibilities and the possibilities of the realized mission. In case of some national parks, the directors introduced additional regulation regarding organization of work during the COVID pandemic. Not all Polish national parks, but some directors decided to make a special regulations according to the possibility of the visitors, of the clients coming, but also for the workers. Well, a partial opening of the national park and landscape parks actually, and before, does not mean the invitation for a mass tourist to these places, but it rather was suggested to have not to having too long walks alone or with family members, friends, and acquaintances. And all information has been done. The small groups are preferred to visiting national parks. Next one, please. So I come back with some words about the case study, which shows you how we managed immediately after the lifting some restrictions related to COVID in my Odra Delta Nature Park. So Society for the Coast, a small organization. Next one, please. It's a example of how the non-governmental organization related to the big area which we are managing could start our activities after the high restrictions given by the COVID. So Society for the Coast, UCC Poland, is a small non-governmental organization established in '96 according to Polish law, with some very important aims. First of all, we are realizing active nature conservation and creating platform for development of sustainable development in local and regional scale. Our mission is also large-scale nature education, from separate publication till organized camps, field activities, media campaigns, TV and radio programs realization, and so other educational aspects. Strengthening the importance of Baltic Sea coast and solving problems connected with wise using and sustainable development and nature conservation is also our very important mission. And here we are creating platforms for cooperation between government organizations, NGOs, local communities, scientific organizations, individuals, all who are involved in conservation problems of coastal zone. Creating platforms of cooperation and participating in international movement dedicated to the sustainable development and conservation. It is also our interesting point. That's why we are trying to be very active in Eurosite, which I belong for since ages, I dare say. Also supporting local initiatives based on the valuable nature areas. That's our new mission, and we are doing it together with the local community, local people who have been a little forgotten by the education processes connected with the nature conservation. And creating large platform for cooperation between all who are interested in education and in the actions connected with the coastal problems and coastal protection. Please, next one, please. Thanks to Econotection Fund, organization who supported the land purchasing for valuable areas forgotten by any kind of the law preparation to conserve, we were able to buy more than 1,000 hectares of valuable coastal pastures, meadows, located in northwest Poland in West Pomeranian region. And here, in 2005, we established an Odra Delta Nature Park, nearly 4,000 hectares, as a result of agreement between our society, Maritime Authority in Szczecin, who are responsibility for the water, so it's large part of the area is dedicated to the water, Regional Department of National Forestry in Goleniów, small city, that is also the natural reserve of the forest, local communities, and the private land owners. So the main goal of park is, of course, nature conservation, but also as a model area for implementing Natura 2000, including tourist, nature education and tourist development. So we are very happy. Well, one day, please, next one. We got a good news. From 15th of May, we could organize events outside special possibility of organizing up to limited people, but still we are very happy to organize such events. My society waited for such an opportunity with great anticipation. That is why we are more happy that the law allowed us to organize an outdoor events, of course with sanitary regime. But to be honest, we felt a little like standing before the tabula rasa, where and when all can be possible and all could happen. It was just after 1 week after the closing, after the opening area to possibilities to have outdoor events, we organized our actions. So we organized, next one please, 2 actions. First of all, we organized family photo adventure. Photo adventure, when we started to realize our mission, not only for nature, but also we try to organize it for the people who would like to have some more knowledge. First of all, group up to 5 persons have one. Oh, no, so can you go again one back, please? Oh yeah, yes. So in May 22, after just 1 week after the opening possibilities, we organized International Day for Biological Diversity. We invited children, youth, adults from the local communities and cities for a family adventure in the fascinating world of our nature. 4 basic assumptions. Registration of participants via email or other forms of communication, no crowds, small family, friends or group, but the main remedy is the safety and joy of being together in nature. Then next one, please. So we decided to organize people in groups up to 5 persons, walk from point to point through park area. So points were located just with the distance who made a possibility to realize the mission for the 4 speakers waiting for the people on the way. First was the nature conservation story of Odra Delta Nature Park. Second point was history of local landscape, it's kind of the natural history. Odra Delta Nature Park, birds and their observations, very important points. And then horse and grazing in Odra Delta Nature Park, showing the grazing as a way for nature, or the tool for nature conservation. Participants make the photos by cameras or smartphones. It was a specific product to promote the nature, not only in families, but also in the place when they were living, in the place when they are coming from. Next one, please. So, through adventure and fun, we shared a lot of interesting knowledge about the biological diversity. We shall help to taking care on the conditions of the nature in the environment in the future, and we open again the closed door connected with the organized visiting our park. With great support from local communities, we were able to realize our action. So we engage the local society to cooperate with us as a sign of new possibilities after time of isolation. So it was possibility also for art actions, and of course to try local spécialité de la maison, what means local cuisine. All in small groups, with distance between groups, and during the trying the cuisine, of course, between the tables. So that is. And of course, still we take to care about the distance between the groups. Next one, please. So in the other word, in the time of the restrictions and safety precaution related to the pandemic, we managed to increase social involvement in the protection of natural heritage in a very specific way. However, it has been worked. So, next one, please. We decided to organize another action similar to that. It was connected with the World Ocean Days, which officially celebrated on the 8th of June, but we organized it next weekend, connected with the people who are visiting Wolyński National Park and Polish part of the sea, Polish part of the Baltic Sea, located there. So we combined it a little bit with recreation and showing the good way to separate in the recreation of the Baltic beach. Again, very important was for assumption, registration of participants via email. However, we also been expected, we also got another people who have been examined about the problems. No crowds, small families, friends group, safety and joy of being together in the nature. So how it was looking like? Next one, please. Beach activities, it was again prepared for the 5 educational zones dedicated to the Baltic Sea, the beach ecosystem as protection of the beach and the cliffs, beach mammals, the coast, water, sand, and mechanism of the creating the beach, art inspired by oceans, and beach activities, a zone of healthy relations of the beach. So, next one, please. Society for the Coast organized it together with the regional partners, Wolyń National Park, WWF, City of Międzyzdroje, regional culture clubs, and with the great support of the volunteers. And that was very interesting. What lessons can we learn? So next one, please. The event in Międzyzdroje, in Polish coast, engaged people to act not only for the gain knowledge, but also we make a common action to clean up the beach. What was very interesting to see what is still the problems with the dirty beaches. We invited specialists in the field for maritime education. We share their knowledge about the sea, but not in the typical lectures, but in fun, interactive, interesting way. Learning through play. All participants confirm that this kind of attraction, this kind of visiting, is very interesting in this strange time, and they would like to be in such events at the next time what we are going to organize. So I'm coming slowly to the end of my presentation. So during organizing such events, we found very important remarks from participants, and that is the kind of my conclusion. The period of COVID pandemic has made people understand how precious and important nature is, as well as how the possibility of enjoying its heritage. So it was the first time when people say not only coming to the park just to be in the nature, but getting some more knowledge. And the other point, which I come back after some remarks from Theo de Bruyn. Thank you very much, Theo. So it is interesting that we did not record a larger visitors in the area, not only in my park, but in the national park also, during the reduction of the restrictions and compared with the previous time. However, we observe very important fact. People more often are coming to get some more knowledge and are interested in nature, not only for the walks. And that is perhaps the only positive aspects of the pandemic in national parks and the protected areas. And answering for the question, visiting visitors, the blessing or burden. Well, in my opinion, visitors are blessed burden because it is also our mission to realize. So next one, please. Thank you very much. And let's be healthy to enjoy the nature. Thank you for your attention.
All right, Kazimir, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation on different natural areas and your personal most beloved national park and natural area in the Oder Delta. Beautiful and very good examples of how you were dealing with the COVID period and the restrictions that came over you. One short question: how did nature react to, well, the lockdown, as well as the partly opening up of natural areas again?
Well, nature answered that there was no special because there was a short time of restrictions coming from the reducing number of the people coming to the areas. Special, I don't think that there's many influence for the nature values, for the nature situation, according to that. Of course, in some areas we notice that there are less people visiting, but it was not an area which are usually used as a strict protected area. So in my opinion, it was no any big influence coming from that. And the only positive is what I say, is people started to be more interested in nature itself, in nature as a problem, nature as a value, nature as a habitat, than just to make an ordinary in scope place where you have to walk and enjoy the being on the sun, being on the beach in the mountains. That is I think that's something what I can answer for your question, Theo.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kazimir.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for your presentation. Well, that gives us the time to do some technical work and give the floor to Imke de Jong to tell about the Dutch situation on visitors and natural areas. The opening slide is already very promising. So Imke, you have the floor now.
Thank you for hosting us. I'm Imke de Jong. I work for Natuurmonumenten in the Netherlands, and I'm a specialist in nature experience and recreation. And in the next 20 minutes, I will talk a bit about our organization for who doesn't know it. And I will tell you about a few measures we took on visitors management. Jelke? Natuurmonumenten is the Dutch Society of Nature Conservation. It's the largest private conservation organization in the Netherlands, and it's founded 116 years ago. And we take care of over 100,000 hectares of natural area. And also we are a caretaker of historical buildings and historical sites in the Netherlands. We work with almost 700 staff members and in thousands of volunteers to maintain natural areas, to invite visitors to our areas, to monitor, etc. As I said, we are a society, so we're not a non-governmental organization, and we are dependent on a lot of members to fund nature conservation in our areas. And we have had in 2020, we had more than 700,000 members who supported us, but we also get fundings from the governments, from businesses, etc. Besides that, we have a lot of members who support us. We have also a lot of online interaction. So we have a lot of website visitors, Facebook fans, etc., where we keep informed about nature in the Netherlands, and especially our natural and protected areas. More important for you are our visitors in our protected areas, and it's difficult to count them. There's no holy grail for counting visitors, but we estimated that we have got 70 million unique visitors in those 371 areas in the Netherlands, and they make almost 50 million visits per year to natural areas. Most of them walk, and a lot of them cycle. Of course, in the Netherlands, it's a cycling country, but also people come horse riding, take their mountain bike out, and walking, of course, is often with their dog as well. On 40 of our over 300 sites, we have extra facilities for accessibility. And that's not only for people who are disabled, but also for families who come with little children and want a nice path to walk over and be able to experience nature, not only from the car park or the restaurant, but really access the natural areas. In 2020, over 150,000 visitors downloaded a route on the website. So what we see in Poland, we got in the Netherlands too. A lot of people discovered natural areas in their surrounding, wanted to walk a route and go outside, especially during the times that all the shops were closed. We thought that. Natuurmonumenten is very dependent on people because we are a private organization. So in the view of what David Attenborough said, we are very much aspire to connect people to nature because we are convinced as well, like he is, that if they're not connected, not inspired, they don't help us to maintain it. They don't help us to take care of that. So for us, visitor management is a very important part of our work because nature in the Netherlands, or at least the hectares we maintain, are dependent on their help. What are we up against in our areas are different things, not so much different. We found out in the MMV conference in September of other natural areas in Europe and in the world. We see a decline in biodiversity, and it's because of soil and water quality decreasing, desiccation, fragmentation, but also recreation is a cause of decline of biodiversity. But it's really hard to tell which cause is the most important, and it depends probably on the area, on the species you have, on the amount of visitors that visit the area. So it's mostly in combined causes, and it makes it really difficult to take the right measures concerning visitor management. What we see, and that was even without the COVID peaks the last 1.5 years, was an increasing number of visitors. A lot more people live in the Netherlands, a lot more people go outside for a walk or a cycle tour. So we see without the peaks, we saw an increase of visitors, an increase of mountain bikers, etc. And when you see an increase of visitors, you also see an increase of certain visitor behavior that is not always good for natural values in your areas, in your sites. And we see a lot of dogs running loose. We see mountain bikers and visitors go outside tracks. And that, of course, is not very good for the biodiversity in certain areas. We also encounter a lot of new activities. People invent new hobbies, especially in times they have to be close to home. So they go drone flying more than they did before. They invented a new sort of bike, gravel biking, instead of race biking or mountain biking. So we see a lot more other things happening in our areas than just walking and cycling. What we think is important in visitors management is that you, beside the natural values, you always have to work from visitors' point of view. That gives the best solution. And we found out, and we heard that on the conference in September as well, there's no real holy grail for visitor management. It's very difficult to count numbers of visitors. So there's always a customization per site necessary. Different measures are necessary. You've got different kinds of visitors, different user groups, and it's difficult to put a sort of nationwide measure on every site. What is important is that you cooperate with partners, because we saw if we wanted to do something about dogs, that they go to the neighbors in the Netherlands, to a neighboring natural area, and they get the problem. So there is, in the Netherlands, it's a densely populated country. So we quickly have waterbed effect. When one organization takes measures, the other doesn't benefit from that. So I'm going to take you through a few solutions now. First, you've got a political solution. And we also have got a few measures that Natuurmonumenten takes in our nationwide, in our own areas, to sort of work with this visitors management, and I have got a few local cases for you, so you can see what it locally looks like, how we manage our visitors and protect our natural values. But important is the political solution. We're not there yet, but we as an organization, and hopefully a lot of organizations and people in the Netherlands with us, think that we've got our protected areas are too small for natural values and accommodates the future recreation. And we think that it's important we get more nature, that we get more area where people can enjoy the outside. And one of the solutions we think is finishing our ecological network. There are a lot more areas that needs to be linked to each other. But the most important thing we think is could be a solution in the Netherlands is that we establish transition zones around protected areas. Where, for example, extensive recreation can take place, like mountain biking and dog walking, etc. And we can use those areas also for climate buffers and nitrogen reduction. So it solves a lot more problems than only recreation. And then we keep the natural values and walking and cycling in the nature areas, and the more extensive recreation, the more outside. And we also think that we have to make rural areas, the areas just outside the cities, just outside the protected areas, more attractive and accessible for visitors. Often it's closed down, inspection paths, areas that are used by agricultural organizations or agricultural use, and they're often closed. And it's important, we think, that people can enjoy more the areas outside cities and nature areas. Now I've got a few practical approaches for you, what we do countrywide in our areas to work on visitor management. It's not something new. I think you probably do that as well, but I put it in a little list. And it's important that you put visitor entrances in the right place. The Netherlands is densely populated, so it's important that it's close to where they really come from. It's important to have very attractive routes so you can guide visitors and you can sort of keep certain parts, sensitive parts, away from a lot of visitors. You can use route networks for that. It separates user groups, what can be important. It's important if you don't want a certain user group to tell them or to facilitate them elsewhere. And it's also important to facilitate visitor goals, so benches, heights, lookouts in the right places, so where you want to have the people. Jelke? What we also try to do is that we split our sites into two categories. We've got our focus areas, almost 50 areas where most of our visitors come to, and basic areas. It's a sort of regional zoning. And we focus facilities, or we try to focus, or in the future we're going to focus our money and manpower in areas where most of the visitors come to. And we're not putting our natural values on the line there, but we can manage our visitors better in areas where we are present ourselves, and it helps getting memberships, etc. And we're trying to downscale in basic areas or in vulnerable areas as well. What we also do is a visitor experience survey, and we're starting the next round now, so we don't have results in time, but we can do a benchmark between our areas already. And every 6 years, we're asking visitors what's their experience in our areas, and it is not about natural beauty, but it's about the facilities, about what they experience when they visit. And we aim to get an appreciation of visitors of minimal 8.5. And it's important because then they come back. For us, that's important that people come back so they get connected with the area and probably will help us with finance and volunteer work when we ask them to. For visitor management, we think it's important that nature experience is of high quality, because otherwise people go and stray through your areas and think, oh, on other spots it's probably nicer. I want to see, I want to look there. So we use interpretive design to enrich their visit. And we make sure in communication and marketing, we keep our promise. So we put the photos of the right user groups when we tell about those sites. We keep it in line with the essence of the place. So we don't keep promises about seeing badgers if you can't see them, but we communicate what you see. And after the MMV in September, we also concluded that probably we should communicate about the amount of visitors people can expect in places that they visit, because we only show pictures without people on it. And maybe that's not realistic anymore in these times, but we're talking about that. And we got a permit, sorry, Jelke, yeah, we got a permit system in line. So if organizations or commercial activities want to organize something, they have to ask us for permission. And sometimes they don't get permission, and sometimes they even have to pay because we want to know who is in our areas. We want to have control over disruption. We want to make sure that other visitors are not bothered by events or by commercial activities. I've got a few examples of a sort of local visitor management. I don't know if I can talk about them all, but one of the most important ones is Nazaridis. It was the first Dutch nature reserve. It's a very clear lake with surrounding swamp forests, like you can see on the photo. It's very important for birds, and it has 750,000 visits a year, we estimate. What we did there is we changed the location of the visitors entrance. It was in the north, and you had to cross the whole area with your car and to go on a guided boat tour. That's the main experience in the area. You can also walk around, but the walk is 18 kilometers, so that's not for everyone. And we changed it more. You see it on the map on the right, more to the area of the lake where the residential areas are. And we changed also the route of our guided boat tours. That's the blue line. And you can see that it's closer to where people live, that it's closer to the highway, and it makes the north part of the lake more quiet. We also made a new viewpoint, because you can walk around the lake now. It's 18 kilometers, but only on a few spots you can see the lake. And what we saw that more visitors are concentrated around the visitors entrance. Of course, there are less movements by cars around the lake. More people come by foot, come by bike. And in the quiet parts, you saw in the last 10 years more nesting birds because the boat didn't go by anymore. And putting up an extra viewpoint where people could walk to, a short walk added to the nature experience. So this transition changed a lot for the Nazaridis. We also have got Veluwezoom, that's heath and woodland in the middle of the Netherlands. It's very large, and it's part of a national park that's even larger. And it's a lot of wild animals there, birds, reptiles, but also a deer, and even the wolf established itself over there. It has a lot of paths and tracks, and over 2 million visits to the area. For the Netherlands, that's an enormous amount of people. What we did in the valley, one of the valleys, it's a bit hilly. In one of the valleys, we closed down paths and we made new ones. For example, a lot of cattle tracks had become a path, and it made the mazes of all the paths a bit small. So there was hardly any sort of quiet pieces in the valley anymore. And what we also did is the white lines is make paths over the rim. So people could see, because the view is over the valley is one of the main experiences in the area. And people were going to look for own paths themselves to see the view. And we prevented them from finding their own paths, but we made extra rim view by putting up tracks over there. And we removed user groups, we separated user groups from each other. So the horse riders can now go through the valley, that's the red dotted line, without being afraid of running over walkers that also are on the path. It's an enormous integral project, so I only have a little section about it now. But we made more room for nature. We established better views and sightings of wild animals, and we had a more efficient management because all the small paths we combined together to a few tracks for walkers. And what we are trying to do in the future is there's an enormous ring road around this valley, and we're hoping to be able to close it in the weekends. We didn't succeed yet, but that's one of the wishes we have. And we are talking about with all the other partners in the area about funding of recreational facilities by all the partners who benefit from all the visitors who visit the area. I will skip the green bit, Jelke. You'll get that on my slide. Then the final question, my last slide, a blessing or a burden. For Natuurmonumenten, visitors are, of course, a blessing and a burden, probably for you all, because visitors will only support nature when inspired and connected. So they have to visit to say yes on our question, if they will help us, if they will fund us, if they will help nature, if they become a volunteer. But this needs an effective visitor management, and it will be necessary in the future more and more. So we have to look into that. And now we're only talking about switching facilities or switching tracks, but maybe in the future we have to talk about numbers of visitors as well. What our most important advice is about visitors management is look at your natural values, but don't forget the viewpoints of the visitors. Because if you don't reckon with visitors' point of view, then they will find their own way through your natural area, and you won't succeed in good visitor management. So keep them in mind, and start also from their point of view so you are able to get them where you want them to be. And it's difficult to say, difficult to take national measures. It's very important, I think, to customize your national measures per nature area, because it depends on the species, on where the visitors come from, which user groups you have. And another important advice I already told you is to cooperate with partners inside and outside the area to succeed, especially in the Netherlands. Maybe in other countries it is different, but in the Netherlands it's so densely populated and nature is so scarce that you have to cooperate with others to succeed in successful visitor management.
All right, Imke, thank you very much for a very inspiring, but also rooted in practical experiences, the examples you were giving in this presentation. Well, yes, visitor management, not on a national level, but per nature area, I think is a very wise lesson for, and I think also recognizable for many of us in the audience. One short question: do you monitor the recreational use in relation to the carrying capacity of the natural area?
Locally we do, but it's very difficult. We attended the MMV conference, and they're all different measures, counters, Google tracking, but it's no holy grail, and it's very expensive. So we do that occasionally locally, but we hope that we can work together with others to find something to measure visitors.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and beautiful examples too. Recognizable. I'm living in the neighborhood of Veluwe area, so yes, it is very crowded every now and then, especially in the weekend. So and yes, I do see the measures taken, and they work out very well. And also your remark on taking care of the visitor's point of view and well, consider their wishes is another advice, I think. Again, thank you very much. And well, we switch over to the third speaker, Theodoros Nazaridis from Kirkini Lake National Park. Kirkini, or Theodoros, I'll give the floor to you, and tell us about your experiences in your beautiful area.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you also for the invitation. I will say first few words about the area of Kirkini, and then what we do to improve the situation for pelican colonies and also for the birds that breed in the riparian forest. And finally, what problems we have with the visitors and what we do or what we plan to do to minimize the impact of the visitors. So, sorry. Okay. Lake Kirkini is in northern Greece at the border with Bulgaria. It's artificial lake. They created the lake in 1922, first to control the floods of the river Strymons, and then to use the water for irrigation. As an artificial lake, there is a range of water level during the year of 4 to 5 meters, depending on the year. In spring, we have the maximum water level, and in autumn, winter, the minimum water level. And the area of the lake changes from 5 to 7,000 hectares. And all of this, of course, create many problems in the environment, especially in the habitats inside the lake. Here is the low water level and the maximum or near maximum water level, and all the riparian forest flooded. In this series of satellite pictures, you can see the changes over the last 30, 40 years in riparian forests. The riparian forest is with the red color here. In 1980, it was about 700 hectares, but in 2002, here it was only about 100 hectares, and now it is about 10 to 20 hectares only. Also, water lilies with green color here, decreasing, and they disappear after 1990. And finally, the reed beds with the yellow color disappeared 2 years after the new, they built the second dam in 1982. Because at that time they raised also the maximum water level. And you can see here in spring of 1985, the riparian forest was about 700 hectares, but in 2002 already reduced to less than 100 hectares. And this photo is 5 years ago. It's much less, and also that the forest is not so dense as before. And the riparian forest is very important for us because we have 11 species that breed in mixed colonies in great numbers, and all heron species except great bitter, spoonbills, closely ibises, cormorants, pygmy cormorants, 11 species in mixed colonies, and so it's important to keep at least part of the riparian forest. We try to do it with some management measures. We built some fences in different parts of the area, and in order to exclude the animals, mainly buffaloes and cows, that graze the area during the autumn and winter. And we plant trees and some reeds in most of them. We had some success, but in some of them, but some of them destroyed by the farmers. So we try to reestablish these fences in other places of the area. Concerning the pelicans, the Dalmatian pelicans, they start to breed in the area in 1989. It was the first nest that we discovered at the eastern part of the lake. And then every year they build nests in some places, but because the water level increased during the spring, all of these nests flooded and destroyed. Forestry Service built an island at the end of the 90s, and the pelicans breed on them, but they abandoned the area because of disturbance by fishermen. So we try to provide a safe place for Dalmatian pelicans to breed. We built these wooden platforms and observation tower at the opposite side to do monitoring. And of course, they accepted. They start breeding there in 2003, the first year we built them. And then we built the second one. And finally, in 2015, we were able to build permanent structures, artificial islands, one between the two platforms here. We provide also nesting material, parts of reeds, because one of the limited factors for pelicans is the lack of nesting material. And of course, they use all these places. And finally, these are the island and the wooden platform and another floated platform here. And of course, the numbers of the pelicans that breed in the area increased. 2 years also, we have white pelicans that breed on the area in this artificial island, and they raise also chicks. We mark them also with plastic rings, and we had some observations from Israel. They show a few of them even many years after the ringing. The last one few days ago. But of course, the Kirkini area is very well known for bird watching. We have many visitors, not only from Greece, but also from many European countries to come here for bird watching, and also wildlife photographers, especially in winter. And this creates some problems because they use the boats from the area, and we ask them to stay out of the colonies, but of course we cannot be always there, and they many times enter, or they went close to the colonies or in the riparian forest or close to the Pelican Islands. This is a small boat from a wildlife photographer, but also fishermen sometimes, something that we didn't expect, approach especially the pelican colony, and they disturb the birds. Some years ago, the water level, it was low in February and March, and the area was accessible, and some visitors went there. And as you can see, they were also, the breeding season was already started. Pelicans were on the nest. And of course, they disturbed the birds and they abandoned the nest. But because last few years, the water level in early spring was low, we had problems also with jackals and foxes. They were able to go to the island, as you can see here and there, during the day or night, and finally the pelicans abandoned the island, and they start a few months later, as soon as the water level raised and the island was not accessible. So what we try to do to minimize all these problems on the colonies. First, the first years we put some buoys around the colonies, and we talk with the people who own the boats to stay out of these signs to not disturb the birds. But of course, it was not so success. And now we plan, hopefully next year we will be able to put new kind of buoys with a rope between them. So, and we will surround the colony, at least the pelican colony. So the boats were not able to cross this line, and they will stay out of this area. We will do it also in some parts of the forest where are the most, let's say, sensitive species. We will start already to build a new observation tower next to pelican colony, because we see that as soon as we stay around, they don't approach the colony, and they don't disturb the birds. But the most important, I think, is to put a remote camera. Hopefully, we will be able to put the first one in the riparian forest in Heron colony this winter, and also the second one for the pelican colony, in order to be able to let's say, survey the area all day, early in the morning or late in the afternoon. And also this will be a very good measure because the visitors will know that somebody will watch through the camera and they will stay out of the area. Finally, these are the islands. There are 2 blocks of islands. Because the last few years they keep the water level in early in spring low because they're afraid of floods. We plan to have a canal around the islands. So even in low water level of the lake, there was water around. It's about 100 meters wide. So at least people will not be able to approach the island. And also we will put electric fence on the outer edge to prevent the jackals and foxes to go, because jackals can swim. It's not so difficult for them to go, but with the electric fence, we hope that they will stay out of the area. With all this, we hope that we will be able to finish all this next 2 years, and then we will be able, we hope at least, to reduce the impact of the visitors in these sensitive places, the colonies of pelicans, and also the mixed colonies of the herons, egrets, and cormorants in the riparian forest. Thank you very much.
Right, Theodoros, thank you very much too. Very beautiful presentation. I think I certainly should be visiting once. But there leaves this one question. Are visitors for you a blessing or a burden? What is your opinion?
Oh, it's a blessing, because for us, it's a management tool also. We need the visitors because it's the way also for the locals to start to change the attitude about the protected area, because it was a poor area. People, it was underdevelopment. Last 10, 20 years, you have many visitors, so there is some economic development, and many people start to think differently about the protection of the area. For us, we would like to have visitors. We try to have more visitors. That's why we participate in some bird fairs in the UK and in Austria in order to attract more people and to have more visitors. And but we have these problems, and we try to find solutions to minimize the impact of the visitors here in these 2 sensitive areas, the colonies.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and for another inspiring presentation and story about Lekini Lake National Park. An eye-opening story for me again. Thank you very much. And in the meantime, the question and answer scheme is used quite a lot. There's still a few open questions for Imke, I see, and there are quite some questions answered already. Please continue to put forward your questions, and we'll see to get them answered if possible. And if not right away, then we can do that on a later moment. And after these 3 presentations, I'd like to raise the question if this topic is of interest of you, and if you would like to join us in a sort of investigating if we can deepen out this topic more, if we can maybe set up a working group for under the Eurosite umbrella to have a periodical meeting and come up with local practices, best practices, local experiences, and to see what you personally or your organization is needing to come up with policy solutions, measures to deal with visitors and within the COVID period. We're definitely in the next wave, but also after the COVID period, when the relation and the connection to nature can be reestablished again, or can have a better basis, so to say. So if you are interested, please contact us at info@eurosite.org, info@eurosite.org, I should say, and by mailing us, we get in touch with you and see what we can come up with all together. And we don't have a plan yet, but we are very curious to know from you if this is a topic we should put more effort and energy on. So for now, yes.
Maybe
okay.
we can answer some of the questions participants have live, because there's a few unanswered questions in the Q&A and we have some time left.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's this one question from Marieke Kuipers to Imke. And it says, does Natuurmonumenten do a regional zoning for their own areas, or also with other owners of nature areas and greens? Yeah, so the zoning is a cooperative action with other organizations, or is it done by yourself, Imke?
I was typing the answer, but I will tell it to Marieke straight away. The basis of this regional zoning is how many visitors we already have now, but the solutions, of course, we can't do on our own. We're so densely populated, and there are so many neighbors. So with the solutions of the visitors management, of course, we will talk to others in natural parks, or we have to do that. But the regional zoning that we do is mainly our own manpower concerns, or for now it concerns our own manpower and our own volunteers and our own money. But of course we have to work together, otherwise it won't be a solution.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Imke, for to my opinion this clear answer. And another question is by Cordelia Spalding. What types of digital tracking are others finding effective to track visitors? Is anyone of the speakers, Casimir or Theodoros or Imke, familiar with digital tracking? Yes, Imke?
I attended the MMV conference in September. It was hosted from Lillehammer, but then digital. And there they presented worldwide a lot of measures to track visitors. So if you look on their website, mmv10.org, I think, you can find a lot of lectures, pamphlets, articles about visitor tracking. And yeah, there wasn't one that was the Holy Grail. So it depends on the question you have and the answer you want to get. And what my conclusion was from that conference is that you have to use different measures at the same time. You have to have an interview, you have to have tracking, you have to look yourself what is happening, what people really do instead of what they say, and that combined gives you the best answer yet. Because Google, if you use Google, for example, or you use mobile phones, they're all positive things about that and negatives. And to get rid of the negatives, you should do additional research at the same time, I think, because there's no holy grail that gives you a straight answer yet. That's what I concluded from that meeting. And that's sad, but sad news, but it's the best you can do.
Yeah. Thank you, Imke. And you mentioned the MMV conference, and Cordelia responded to it, and well, MMV is not the name of the organization, but it's the name of the conference. Well, that's at least information I find on the website. But if you Google on MMV 10 the conference, you'll find the website of the 10th conference with definitely more information on this digital tracking topic. Well, so far, the questions, I think, yes. Well, and if we don't have any questions anymore, then there is my phone ringing. So I'm doing a very multitasking job at the moment, but it seems succeeding. Well, I think on behalf of everybody who was partaking in this conference, Imke, Theodoros, and Kazimir, thank you very much for your presentations and the information you gave from your local, regional, national situation. To me, it was very inspiring and very good to hear all the things that were going on visitor management in the COVID period, but also before that and after that. In a normal setting, I would have a bunch of flowers to hand out to you, but the only thing I can do is by mouth. Thank you very much, and for this presentation. And well, we'll definitely be meeting each other again, sharing ideas on this topic. And another thanks goes to Jelke and Wojciech, who have done a lot of work behind the screen.
You're
and
very
made this another smooth running webinar again. Thank you for that. And well, and thanks to all the participants for sharing these hours and listening to the speakers. And Jelke, you raise your hand.
Well, we're not the only one to thank. You've been a wonderful moderator, and so a very warm thank you to you as well. And then as a final thingy, I saw that Kyriakos Kordas from Greece would like to say something about the digital tracking as well.
Okay, Kyriakos, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a very complicated issue, this digital tracking, but we try to apply this technology in Greece now. About Google tracking has been mentioned, but maybe there is an experience that we can develop about using new application about this. We have started to do for the hunting community in Greece, having an interactive about this. So, and if this could be combined with the enforcement, would be more useful. So the idea is to have an interactive when you are approaching a very sensitive area, to have with your GPS of your mobile phone an alarm that you are approaching in a sensitive hotspot. Be careful, but this is not something that must happen suddenly, but there must be a preparation. And Kazimir said that there is a registration for the visitors to go in. So maybe through an application would have a very good preparation for our visitors, and then apply an interactive system when they are walking, cycling, or just going to a sensitive hotspot in a national park, to be aware that you are approaching a very sensitive area, The example of Kerkini Lake is something unique because it is combined a holistic management approach, visitors and colonies. But for our visitors, I think a new application, a new app could be developed and tested in some areas and see if this could be applied in a more broader way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kyriatis, for these extra comments on the digital tracking and your personal experience on it. Thank you. Well, then again, to everybody, thanks for listening and thanks for partaking in this webinar. If you are interested in this topic, please do send us an email and we'll have a contact with you in order to see how we can give a follow-up on this on these presentations and in this interesting theme so far. Thank you very much and have a nice day and stay healthy.